I never had a baby, obviously. I look like I could have it any moment, but I've never had a baby. But Paul likened it to having a baby. He said, my little children, whom I travail in birth pains again, till Christ be formed in you. And I do know the pain of delivery. And the pain that I have sometimes in trying to express, I'll just say God's best, or God's best as I know it. And I say tonight, I thought about ways we could open this, but I really believe this may be one of the most important things I've ever said to you. I believe these things we're about to say to be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. And I think it's really important that we receive them. We'll read later on and some things about, it's an evil and adulterous generation that seeks after a sign. And Jesus said a different way in Matthew 11. We're actually going to look at that one. But he said no sign will be given it but the sign that was given to Jonah. When Jonah's in the fish's belly 3 days, and that was a miracle. Say it with me, a miracle. But when he said an evil and adulterous generation seeks after a miracle, we'll talk about that a little bit. We're not knocking miracles when we say that. But I'll just say it this way to open up. You were never meant to live by miracles. The commands are what saves us. It's rules that we live by. Life is won or lost by how you play the game. Please say that with me, rules. And of course, the rule book includes the commands, and the commands, are many, because I'm not going to preach this tonight, but the New Testament, Jesus gave us in Matthew 22, gave us just 2 commands and said, on this hangs all the law and the prophet. But those 2 commands, as you know, is love God with all your heart, love your neighbors yourself. And you'll find when you do that, you'll run into lots of rules that you need to live by. It's a lot more difficult to live love than it is to talk love. It's not hard to read that one verse says, love your neighbor as yourself. But when you go out to do that, you find all kinds of problems. And so you find other commands, other rules. Say it with me, rules. And so under those 2 rules hangs rules and rules and rules and rules. And you run up against rules several times every day. You run up against a command several times a day. Let me say it another way, you run up against choices several times a day. I wonder how many times a day we make choices. With our mouth, for example. Or with the way we treat other people. Or with the thoughts we think. Or with the way we conduct our business life. And every choice has within its power, as God said, who knows, I set before you life and blessings, death and curse, and you choose. But that don't mean you just choose one time to become a Christian. You choose daily in your life and blessings, death and curses. By the rules you choose, by the way you play the rules, by what you choose to be right in your life, or you allow yourself to live sloppily. Am I communicating? And so there's all kinds of rules and commands. Another way of saying that is there's all kinds of proverbs, or there's all kinds of wisdoms. I don't want to say it that way. There's just 2 wisdoms, the wisdom of God and the wisdom of this world. But there's every day you have opportunity to make several wise choices or several foolish choices. And when you make more foolish choices than you do wise choices, you're going to end up being a failure with your life. When your wise choices outnumber your foolish choices, you're going to end up with a successful life. And the degree you use wisdom, the wisdom of God, will determine the result of your life. And thinking about us today, I was thinking, I really would like to, when I come to the end of my life, to feel like that I have had a successful life. I just think every Christian ought to live a successful life. By that I mean a good result. We ought to come to our end in a good way. I'm sure the Word teaches that just like your words. By your words you're justified, by your words you're condemned. We think everything's off out in eternity, but not everything is. Now, eternity will tell it all, and we'll be rewarded in eternity, but I have judgments every day that I live. I have, another word that the Bible uses is the word verdict. It's in the synonym of the Hebrew word. To every action there's a verdict on my action. Every word there's a verdict. Am I communicating? And if I use wisdom, then God can reward in my favor, and I live under the blessings, not under the curse. And so the way to live a blessed life, now you need to really hear me. Please don't say, oh, Pastor, I know it. The way to live a blessed life is to choose wisdom as the principal thing in your life. The wisdom of God. So we're in the book of Proverbs. I think Solomon's attributed 3,000 proverbs, and probably more than that, but 3,000 recorded ones, I believe I remember reading somewhere. And we're all the way through chapter 8, and we're going to start tonight in chapter 9. We're probably not going to get very far, but again, maybe one of the most important things I've ever said to you. So follow me as quickly as you can and keep me in your prayer. We're looking at verse 1. Wisdom, please say that with me, wisdom, has built her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars. I'm telling you, there is enough truth in that verse to save your life. That one verse. And we're going to begin to look at the 7 pillars of wisdom. Now, when you think of a pillar, another word for pillar is the word column. 7 columns. So imagine in your mind 7 columns, and I thought about using the term Gothic. I meant to look that up and see if that would be appropriate. But in Roman days, and in those days of columns and Solomon's temples, and the days of the historic days of Solomon's reign, and all those ages, they had these great, Shauna, what would we call those great edifices that you've been and seen in Italy or wherever you went in Europe, and the big columns that they project up, and of course the purpose of columns or pillars. Someone just help me out here. What's the purpose of the pillars? Support. Primarily, what do they support? The building, that's true. But primarily, what do they support? The roof. What's the purpose of a roof? Protection. So it's telling us that wisdom hews out 7 pillars, and these 7 pillars are for your protection. I may get there, I may not. Psalms 91 said, "He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge, my fortress." Wisdom, we'll talk about 7 pillars, 7 things that wisdom tells us, and we're going to find so many. I've asked you this before, and I know you know it. What's the first word Jesus used in His ministry? What's His first message? Perhaps, if we looked at it that way. But His first message, He just said that one verse. We'll think a little further down and see what His first message was. We'll find out later. And again, He said, this ought to be a key to you. Wisdom is the principal thing. So Jesus, first of all, would teach wisdom. He taught the Beatitudes. But the Beatitudes are the 7 pillars of wisdom. There's 9 Beatitudes, but 2 of them are passive. They're just a result of the first 7. So there's 7 Beatitudes that have to do with what you do. Say it with me, please, what I do. And what you do determines, how can I say this? God has given you 7 pillars to build your life on. That as you build on them, they produce, as it were, they hold the protecting power of God over your life. And I'm telling you from the depths of my being, I see on the horizons of time that the world, and I've told you this, is growing darker. The Bible teaches that it will. But you know, like in the days of Noah, Noah was a preacher of what? Righteousness. Noah built an ark of safety, and Noah was saved. In fact, Noah was lifted, and Noah was blessed, and Noah inherited the earth. He was the one that remained. The people of God that know how to operate in the wisdom of God, they remain. When businesses are going broke all around you, if we can find the 7 pillars of wisdom, and if, say it with me, if. And again, Patty, if is a subordinate conjunction. It leans on something. It has to have support. It's subordinate under something else. It means if means if. Say it with me, if. If you will learn these things we're going to try to say to you tonight, and I'm not getting along very fast, they're hard to bring out. If you learn the things we're going to say to you tonight, they're like pillars in a building. They will hold a roof of protection over you. When the Lord said it, He said it this way, "He that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock." And when the rains came, what did the rains hit? They hit the roof. What did the winds hit? They hit the pillars that it was built on. And the house on the rock stood fast. I tell you, with everything in me, I'm sure. I'm just so sure. I bet everything I have on it and my eternity. I'm just telling you, I'm sure that wisdom is going to be the principal thing of our future. And we make a mistake. Don't get offended by this next statement. I'll get to it later on. I'll give you a Bible for it. But we make a mistake sometimes in trying to get God to do something supernatural when God never intended for the world to work on supernatural principles. Everything here, every miracle Jesus did, He knew exactly what He did. He worked miracles because he understood what I'll call the laws of science or nature. He just knew them from a heavenly perspective, and everything he done, he applied law to. Even the healings. So we keep wanting God to do something about our problem, when in reality, if we understood the 7 pillars of wisdom, and we would build our life on these 7 pillars. Jesus' first message was the Beatitudes. They were the pillars of wisdom. We'll see that later on. He went right out of that, and he that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I liken him to a wise man who built his house. Wisdom, it says here in verse 1, and I'll try to get on. Wisdom has builded her what? She has hewn out 7 pillars or 7 columns. Now, if we begin to understand what those 7 pillars or 7 columns is, then we can build our lives on them. And we need to understand that Jesus taught on these, and Jesus taught on wisdom a lot. Fact is, I personally believe that's almost all he did talk about. We just haven't seen that in his teaching. And I'm going to say this one more time, then I'm going to move on. But I'm troubled by the fact that we see Jesus. We see his virgin birth. That was the wisdom of God. But we don't see that. We see his sinless life, his death, his burial, his resurrection. We talk about the new birth, but we don't understand the wisdom of Jesus Christ. I'm trying to preach on the wisdom of Solomon, but Jesus said of himself, greater than Solomon is here. What was he trying to get us to see? He's trying to say, build your life on the 7 pillars of wisdom. Build your life on wisdom. And don't depend on a miraculous life. Use the laws that are there, that are governed there. I mean, it's everywhere around us. If you're a builder, you build by principle. If you build a natural house, you don't wait on a miracle, you build a house. Well, you build a life. You remember Proverbs 24:3, through wisdom is a house builded. By good understanding it's established. By knowledge shall all his chambers be filled with, by wisdom it's established, by knowledge it's established, by understanding shall all of his chambers be filled with all pleasant and precious riches. Let me go ahead further and see if we can establish this a little bit better. Go with me, if you would, to the book of Luke chapter 11. Luke chapter 11. And keeping in mind that we've already said most of Jesus' ministry, all of Jesus' ministry was really about the wisdom of God. Even his virgin birth, his sinless life, his death, his burial, his resurrection, nothing would have happened if he had not been the wisdom of God. He's called the wisdom of God. We cooperate with what he did, and we find salvation. I mean, it'll work for you in any area of life. Luke chapter 11, we'll jump in at verse 29. If you're there, say, I'm there. And when the people were gathered thick together, I just love the word, don't you? Say it with me, thick. I mean, it just is so descriptive. When the people were gathered thick together, Jesus, began to say, this is an evil, what? They seek a... Now, if you highlight sign there, Brother Floyd, we'll begin to see that word really is where we get our word miracle. Highlight miracle. He said, this is an evil generation. They seek a sign. They seek a miracle. Let me define miracle before I go further, and you might want to write this down. I tried to remember my definition from Rhema, but I didn't remember it fully, so I went with Webster, but it'll work. A miracle is an event or effect. Very important words. Say it with me, effect. An event or effect, are you writing? That apparently contradicts known scientific law, and I will cover this again in a moment, and hence thought to be due to supernatural causes. I submit to you the church world lives in that realm. And Jesus called that an evil generation. I may not want to put this on the internet, because you're fighting the way the whole church world thinks, and yet on the other hand, if you and I will be honest, the church world is not near successful as it should be. When you can have the Muslim faith outgrow the Christian faith, and they believe in killing people and getting 70 black-eyed virgins by killing innocent women and children, there's something seriously wrong in the Christian faith. And if we always do what we've always done, we're going to always have what we've already got. I love the Christian faith. I'm not real thrilled with its results. So he said it's an evil. He said this is an evil generation. They seek a sign. Say it with me, please, sign. One more time, an event or effect, because life is cause and effect. The kingdom of heaven is a cause and effect kingdom. Your life is a cause and effect life. Take responsibility. You say, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, Pastor. Then get in the Word and find out. Because your life is a result of your actions. To every action in life, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You have enough right actions, you're going to have success. You have enough wrong actions, you're going to have failure. Don't let the enemy get you down and say, oh, my life's just a failure. I've made so many bad choices. There's never a better time to start making right choices than now. If you make enough right choices right quick, God will bring you out of where you are. But let's read on. It said, an event or effect that apparently, say it with me please, apparently, contradicts known scientific laws and hence thought to be due to supernatural causes. Now here's what we do. We say, oh, in our desperation, we cry out to God. And what we're really saying is, I need you to do something that apparently contradicts known scientific laws and hence thought to be due to supernatural causes. I need you to do something supernatural to get me out of my mess. And the Lord himself here says this is an evil generation. They seek a miracle. They seek something from out there, and there shall no sign be given it but the sign or the miracle of Jonah the prophet. Now, if we think about that, Jonah the prophet, and he's talking about that, was in the fish's belly 3 days. The fish spit him out, and I've not read Jonah real recently, but it was certainly a miracle. God did something from up there. But what he's telling them, he says, look what he says. He said, this is an evil generation. They seek a sign, and no sign shall be given it. What's he saying? He said, I didn't really come can I get by with this? You all going to let me by with this, aren't you? I didn't really come to do something that seems to be from out there. Well, what did he come for? If he didn't come to work miracles, am I doing all right out there? Are you hearing me? If he didn't come to work miracles, why did he come? Well, just keep reading. For as Jonah was a miracle of the Ninevites, so also the Son of Man shall be to this generation. Now, verse 31. The queen of the south shall rise up in judgment with the men of this generation. Do you know who the queen of the south was? Sheba. Do you remember who she was? Who was she? She was the woman that came to Solomon, and when she heard of his wisdom, say it with me, wisdom, she came all the way to see him. We taught about that, brought him huge checks, millions of dollars, I think billions, maybe trillions, billions probably, I don't remember the numbers, but she brought him a huge check because she saw the wisdom of Solomon. Say with me, wisdom. And what Jesus is talking about here, he said, my people, this generation just keeps wanting me to work a miracle, when in reality, I didn't come to teach them how to work a miracle. I come, but if you have the wisdom of God, oh Lord, if you have the wisdom of God, you could work a miracle. Paul said about the people, he said, he that worketh miracles among you, does he do it by the hearing of the Lord, by the hearing of faith? So when you know enough about the wisdoms of life, your life will seem like a miracle. But it won't be a miracle. It'll be applied law, applied wisdom to your life that will build your life in such a way that others will look at your life and think it's a miracle. Are y'all out there? Again, maybe I'll get to tonight, probably not, but you can look it up. He said, let your light so shine before men, they may see your good works. That's what Solomon did. He had so many good works of wisdom that the whole world could see his enlightenment. Please say that, my enlightenment. In other words, he was such a wise man, and when you get wise enough, when you get the principles of life, the wisdom of God strong enough, and you start making enough right decisions, it'll elevate your life till the world will think it's a miracle. They thought Jesus was a miracle in his everyday life. He just knew how to apply. He said there's no miracle going to be given to this generation. In other words, my death, burial, and resurrection is all the miracle you're going to get out of this. Everything else is an event, an effect that apparently contradicts known science. Everything else will be known, listen carefully, known science. Say with me, known science. Problem is, you just may not know it. Did you hear that? You don't know all known science. What does science mean? Knowledge. You just don't know enough. Not going real good, but we'll keep working it. I'm telling you. Verse 31. So he tells them in verse 29, the evil generation is seeking after a miracle, and no miracle shall be given it but my death, burial, and resurrection. The queen of the south shall rise, verse 31, up in judgment with the men of this generation, and condemn them, for she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear what? The wisdom of Solomon. And behold, a greater than Solomon. What's he trying to do? He's trying to get them to know him as the wise Jesus, the wisdom Jesus. He is the wisdom of God. He goes ahead later on, and I've got so many notes in my mind and going on, but he said, he that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I liken him to a wise man. Jesus came to teach us how to live. He gave us the 7 pillars of wisdom. If we will live the 7 pillars of wisdom, they will be what the Jews called a chuppah over your head. They'll be a protection over you. They'll be columns to hold your life up. Please say that, columns to hold my life up. When the storm that's on the horizon finally makes it to this earth and the way it's coming, the people that are going to stand, and not only stand but do well, will be the people who have built on the 7 pillars of wisdom, and thereby they have the protection of God on their life. But you won't have the protection of God on your life just because you ask God for protection. Are you ready for this? When I just ask God for protection, what am I doing? Excuse me? I'm asking for a miracle. Is that true? I'm saying, God, you do something about my life. And you know, I believe He's saying to me, Gary, no miracle in the sense we speak of is going to be given you. The miracle is in me, and if you'll hear my sayings, then I will enlighten you. You'll have the 7 pillars of wisdom, and the 7 pillars, the 7 columns will hold the roof of protection up over your life. And when you get to Psalms 91, he that dwells in the secret place. What does it mean? I just, like the Lord said to me, the secret place is the 7 pillars of wisdom, Gary. If you'll dwell in the secret place of the Most High, you'll abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my fortress. What's my fortress? The 7 pillars of wisdom. What's my fortress? The ways of God. What's my fortress? When I do the 7 pillars of wisdom. Well, what are the 7 pillars of wisdom? What in the world can they be talking about? Wouldn't it be great if 7 pillars of wisdom would hold our lives from being destroyed? Wouldn't it be good to know what they are? Well, let's find out. Are you ready? Let's read on. So the queen of the south one more time shall rise up in judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them, for she came to the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, a greater, I love that, don't you? Say it with me, a greater than Solomon is here. Then verse 32, the men of Nineveh shall rise up in judgment with this generation, shall condemn it. They repented the preaching of Jonah, and he said a greater than Jonah was here. He said, I'm a bigger miracle than Jonah ever thought about being. And that generation repented at Jonah's, and all Jonah got done was coughed up by a fish. He said, I'm going to raise my dad. He said, what's the matter with you people? A greater than Jonah's here, a greater than Solomon is here. So we got both. We got the miracle of Jonah. We got a miracle, but his focus is on the wisdom of Solomon and the fact that he's greater than Solomon, which means he's wiser. Say it with me, he is wiser. Now watch this. Verse 33, no man when he hath lighted a candle. Say it with me, lighted a candle. What's a candle? It's a light. Remember, I just taught you. The commandment is a lamp. The law is a light. So he's talking about wisdom. Say it with me, wisdom. No man, when he hath lighted a candle, puts it under a secret place, neither under a bushel, but on a candlestick, that they which come in may see the light. Now, let me just talk about that for a minute. If you find something that really works for you, your end will be a successful end. And most people don't hide their success. They like to show their success. They like to show their favorable. If it's their children, if that's your big success, I guarantee you, if you got successful in your children, when I get around you, you won't tell me about your children. I just come around Jack and Dee this afternoon. Dee had to tell me about her kids a little. I mean, you know, because it's your reward. You have bragging rights. And that's not bad. If your children turn out, what you're really saying was, I must have done something right for my children to turn out. And we wouldn't say it that way because we wouldn't be that braggadocious sounding. But the reality of it is, if your children turn out in today's world, it's going to take some kind of enlightenment, some kind of wisdom to raise good kids in a crooked world. How am I going to do that? I'm going to pray that God will do something. No, you're going to find the 7 foundational pillars of wisdom, and you're going to apply those to your life. You're not seeking a miracle. You're seeking the wisdom and the understanding of God so you can apply that to your life. And when you apply that to your life, you're not sitting around waiting for God to do something about your children. You are applying the rules of life. You're applying the pillars to your life, and they become a protection about your life. Are we communicating? Let's read on. No man, verse 33 again, when he lights a candle, puts it in a secret place, neither under a bushel, but on the candlestick. He's really referring to, for example, the wisdom of Solomon. How many of y'all know Solomon was great? You remember that? And the Queen of Sheba came all the way from the south, right? She came to that enlightenment. She came, and Solomon's light was so bright, he was the richest king in all the East. We still know him today, do we not? We still know of the wisdom of Solomon. That's because he was such a bright light. We still know of Jesus Christ because he's a bright and shining light. He came a light into the world. When your life is filled with wisdom, you become a light to the world. What God wants from the church today is for us to have enough wisdom to become a light to a hurting and dark world. And they want to know how you're successful. You can tell them, well, I applied the 7 pillars of wisdom. And that's protected me. I want you to get that. Please say that with me, protected me. If you don't have 7 pillars to hold you up, then you don't have, and you might miss 1 or 2 of those. And I read that studying theology. You could lose 1 pillar and still have a roof, but you lose enough pillars and what happens? The roof caves in. This building here always fascinates me. Those things push all the way down on these big column bases on the end. That whole thing, if something happens out there to those columns out there, this thing comes crashing down on us. Life is not run in a wise way. That's why I so much respect you for being here on Wednesday night. People don't believe we're going to learn anything. That's why they don't come. But I promise you, you're going to learn something. If you'll apply it, it will heal your life. Now, it's a lot easier for me to tell you you're going to learn something that will heal your life than it is to do it. Because it's the doing it that gets tough. He that heareth these things of mine and doeth them, I'll liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. What's he doing? He's building on those 7 pillars of wisdom. He's using them. We're going to get to them. I'll get you there before we get done tonight. Verse 34, the light. Say it with me, please, the light. The light of the body is the eye. Now, if you follow that eye out through the Bible, I'll give you some insight. It's the eye of your... Yes, but I pray well, let's just hold your place there and go to Ephesians chapter 1, verse 18. Let's look. Let's think. Let's work. Let's don't just come to hear me. I want you to think and I want you to work. I would that you bring your Bibles, keep notes, and get this. You are never going to get your 7 pillars working if you don't meditate these things day and night. You will go tomorrow. There will be hundreds of times that you'll need wisdom. And you want to get so conscious of making wise decisions, wise choices, that you quit making a lot of the decisions we've made in the past. That's not to put down you. That's just reality. And the tougher the thing gets, the better your house needs to be built. I'm talking about your business. I'm talking about your economic return. I'm talking about your family. I'm talking about life. Do you find Ephesians 1:18? What does it say? I pray the eyes of your what? So when he talks about eyes, he's talking about your understanding. Say it with me, understanding. If you read Proverbs, you'll see understanding over and over again. And understanding means mentally put it together. Have an understanding about life. Have an understanding about the trucking business. Have an understanding about the plumbing and electrical business. Have an understanding about banking business. Have an understanding about raising children. Be able to look at situations and think, I know how to handle that. By wisdom. And know what those 7 pillars are. We're going to find out. The eyes of your understanding be enlightened. So back over here in Luke chapter 11, flipping back there, when he says the light of the body is the eye. So let's use the word understanding, please. Just say it with me, understanding. Therefore, when thine understanding is single, the whole body is full of light. And when thy eye is evil, say it with me, evil. When your understanding is evil. Now remember, he just said this is an evil generation, right? They seek after what? A sign, a miracle. Please, let's use the word miracle. The sign's right, but it means miracle. And a miracle, again, means an event or effect that apparently contradicts known scientific law. They're always wanting God to do something that's out of the ordinary. Like when I was a kid, if I didn't feel saved, I wasn't saved. I always wanted to just feel real good. I'll just tell you, you don't always feel good as a Christian. Hello? I don't even think about whether or not I feel good as a Christian. And yet I wanted to go to the altar, feel really good, and I guess I thought I'd just go through my whole life feeling really saved. But as soon as I walked out of the church building, I found things that made me feel very unsaved. What was I wanting? I was wanting a miracle. I wasn't wanting to build my life. I wanted to feel good. I watched churches in my generation, and I'll tell you, If they can be hyped, they're hyped. And I'm not opposed to hype. We ought to have more hype than we have. Laurie's working on hyping you right now. But the reality of it is, you don't live a hyped life. Your trucks are still going to tear up. The refrigerators are still not going to be cold enough. You're still going to have people not pay at Maverick Supply. You're still going to have cranky people come to the bank. You're still going to have bank defaults. You're still going to have loans that go bad. You're still going to have to live life. So the key to life is not having just living in a miraculous bubble all the time. It's learning how to live the 7 pillars of wisdom so you've got a roof over your head. So when the storms of life, the rains came down, the flood came up, the rains came down, but the house on the rock stood fast. The winds blew, the house on the rock stood fast. Winds are going to blow. Do you understand that? Winds are going to blow. They're going to blow on your marriage. They're going to blow on your children. There are going to be some terrific winds that come in life. I personally believe more so than usual. But if it's like it's always been, the wind will be strong enough. But see, the wind's not the problem. Your pillars are the important part. I know some people, some friends of mine has got what I call a Frady hole in their house. And I like to call it that. It doesn't reflect on them, but I think a Frady hole is a great idea. I've been to Norman, Oklahoma, and seen where tornadoes have come across there and took everything away except the Frady holes. So it's good to have a Frady hole. What's a Frady hole? It's a place built to withstand the tornadoes of Oklahoma. Well, a life built on the 7 pillars of wisdom will stand the tornadoes of hell. It can't get so bad you can't make it, and you can make it to where it looks so good, they'll see your good works and glorify your Father. When you build on the 7 pillars of wisdom. So he goes ahead, verse 35. I think I want to go all the way down through here. Take heed, therefore, that the light. Say with me, the light. Well, I got to back up to verse 34. The light of the body is the what? Give me another word. Then when thy eye is single, the whole body is full of light. But when thine eye or your understanding is evil, your whole life is full of darkness. If you don't have any understanding, oh Lord, how we do it? Are y'all hearing me? When you don't have any understanding, it's like you're walking around in darkness all the time. You just stumble. I've had 2 reports this week of people who's dealing with people who have become agnostics. They no longer believe. One doesn't, agnostics by name don't know if they believe in God or not. One man told his son, the son told me yesterday in my office, he said, Dad just blew her socks off. We always thought he's a Christian, and he told me here a while back he didn't know that he was, and he thought other ways might be just as good, and he wasn't sure there was a God. And what's wrong? How can men do that? Because they've been given a religion, and one religion might compare to another religion, but when you have the wisdom of Jesus Christ applied to your life, you won't ever want any other so-called religion in the world. It'll bring your life up. It'll build your life. When everybody else going to hell in a handbasket, the house on the rock stood fast. What I got to have some understanding. What is it? Well, for one thing, the 7 pillars of wisdom. So he goes ahead and says, verse 35, take heed therefore that the light which is in thee, say with me, the light. Let's use another word. Guess what that word might be, what we might use here? The understanding or the wisdom, the enlightenment, the wisdom that's in thee be not darkness. If the whole body therefore be full of enlightenment, having no part dark, the whole shall be full of light, as when the bright shining of a candle doth give thee light. What's he saying? You just seek the wisdom of God, the 7 pillars. But back up in verse 33, no man when he has lighted a candle. Say when he lighted a candle. So if we can find that somewhere else in the New Testament, we might begin to find the 7 pillars of wisdom. Then I looked at Matthew chapter 5. Obviously, you would know that. Matthew chapter 5. Now I'll go back to where we were a while ago, and I'll ask you what the first message that Jesus taught, and you rightly answered, the kingdom of heaven. But more rightly, he just said in Matthew chapter 4, verse 17, we'll cover that. From that time, Jesus did what? Matthew 4:17. I'm leaving you. Matthew 4:17. From that time, Jesus what? Began to what? And say what? What? For the kingdom of heaven is at hand, or it's come nigh you, or it's within your reach. So we've taught you his first word was repent, metanoeo, change your perception, change your awareness. Then he said for the kingdom of heaven, that's the realm of elevated life. That's life as God has. That's heaven's life is within your reach. But how is it within my reach? He drops on down to chapter 5 and he begins to give me the 7 pillars of wisdom. So the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who understand the 7 and apply the 7 pillars of wisdom. And we call these 7, only there's going to be 9, but 2 of them are passive. Am I communicating? So there's going to be 7 pillars here that are, because then he goes right back into verse 14. Let's go there first of all. You are the what? You got to hurry if you're going to stay with me. Matthew 5:14. I'm going to hurry. Matthew 5:14. What does he say? You are the what? Light of the what? A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel. We just covered that, didn't we? So what's he talking about in context of this chapter? He's talking about what we call the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes are the enlightenment of life. There's 7 of them. They're listed as 9. If you just read them, you'll think there's 9. 7 are active and 2 are passive. 2 of them aren't really, they're just the result of the first 7. So he starts listing here to us the pillars to build your life on. And we read them through religious eyes, and we kind of pass over them. But I'm telling you, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I've told you before, his first word was his most important word. Repent, change your perception, the realm of elevation within your reach. This is his first message. It's his most important message. He's going to give us 7 things that we should each one be working with in our life. Say it with me, each one. Doesn't matter if you're a housewife that stays at home, or if you're in the workplace, or if you're a rich man, or you're a poor man, or you're a beggar, or you're a thief. You need to learn to operate on these 7 pillars of wisdom that he's about to give us here, verse 1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. Same root word as heaven. An elevated place. Say it with me, an elevated place. Why does the Bible say that? Because he's going to teach us elevated things. Say with me, elevated things. The person that lives these things will live an elevated life. I must tell you, it won't make your life a bed of roses, but it will make you a winner in life. Nobody's going to get by easy. We have an enemy, darkness all around us, and I'll tell you this, when you operate in an elevated life, some men will hate you. They'll speak all manner of evil against you falsely. They won't understand your nice ways, your good ways, your wise ways. These things are not the ways of the world. You know they crucified the Lord. Do you know why they crucified the Lord? His ways were not their ways. They thought he had a devil. They thought he was loony-toony. They thought he was some kind of a weirdo. He taught things they couldn't grasp, and so they crucified him eventually. When you operate in this realm, don't you think that everybody's going to like you. Not everybody. Jesus said, you'll be hated of all men. Why? Because your life is different. Sometimes that hate will be birthed out of jealousy and envy. But if you live this way, it'll please God. And I'd rather please God as please man. And I don't mean to say that you won't have any friends. Wise men will seek you. I'd rather have one wise man as a friend as 10 idiots. Amen. I don't need any more drag on my plane. Verse 2, he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, blessed. Say with me, blessed. Here's another good thing to know. Highlight blessed, and this ain't on topic, so let me take a digression here. This word blessed means supremely blessed, fortunate, well off, blessed, and happy. Say with me, happy. Happy are the poor in spirit. Now that don't seem right. He meant several things by that. He meant if there's any in this congregation. In fact, if you look at verse 1, seeing the multitude. So he's looking down this hill and he sees a whole lot of folks. Let's say hundreds at least, maybe thousands. Of that group, he said, happy are the poor in spirit. Say it with me, poor in spirit. One thing he meant was that's an encouragement to us who are poor in spirit. In that multitude, there was people that didn't believe. There was people that believed he was an idiot. There was people that believed he was stupid. There was people that believed he was of the devil. There was people that believed that he just had some kind of a birth defect. But he was looking for the people that would hear and believe. So first thing he said to them, blessed are the, say it with me, poor in spirit. For theirs is the kingdom Theirs is a realm of elevation. Pillar number 1. Be poor in spirit. By that I mean be hungry in spirit. Be humble in spirit. What word can I use of poor in spirit? I'll say be humble, but we have the wrong attitude about it. Humility. Be teachable. No, you don't know everything. Say it with me, I don't know everything. In fact, if we ever realize how much we don't know, it can be real depressing. And that's the guy that can go up. You can't tell a know-it-all anything. We got a whole world out there that thinks they know it all about God. And I don't mean that ugly. It's just a fact. I'm just talking now to the family. Can't put this upstairs. But people aren't humble themselves before God. They don't think they need church. They don't think they need the Bible. I've had 3 today, 1 or 2 yesterday, come by my office wanting money. Their lives are just in hell. We helped some of them. Some of them we didn't help. We try to use wisdom. But they never find their way to church. What do they want? A miracle. We know you're the church and you're going to help us. Well, will you pardon me just a moment? That's a hell of a way to live. Thank you for allowing me to do that. That's a scum-sucking low life. Waiting for somebody else that might have some compassion on your life. Or what's the word we need to use? We'll just go down here and one man said, and I love him, I helped him, I'm going to help him more. I believe it's a God thing. So I'm happy to help him because anytime I think it's a God thing, I'm all over it. But I feel like God probably did lead us together. But He said, you're basically my last resort. Well, thank you. It's kind of like Christian. Well, nothing else works, so we decided we just pray. Right up there on the top, isn't it? Their lives are in shambles. They come to our doors wanting you and your tithe money in your life to support them. That's a miracle. They want something to be, no, that's a different scripture. I've got to go back to 11. I should keep that. I'm going to learn that and get better at it. But a miracle is a event or effect that apparently contradicts known scientific law and hence thought not to be due to supernatural causes. They're just hoping that they get blessed when they come here. We had some doozies this week. Real doozies. And you feel sorry for them because their life is in hell. But the way is above to the wise man that he may depart from the hell that's beneath. They're going to hell as it were in this life. It's not the hell of hells, but they're being tormented. I have people come by our office and they are tormented. They're living in the street, man. They're living outside. But you know what's outside? Proverbs 1 says, wisdom cries aloud in downtown Eureka. She utters her voice. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? How long will you be silly? They can sleep in the woods and wisdom is there. What's wrong? They're not seeking wisdom. They're seeking a miracle. Unless we get too judgmental, we're sort of the same way. We just go from catastrophe to catastrophe, just trying to get through life. Hang on, brother, in a few more days it'll all be over. Well, it's going to be a long old road. And I'll tell you something else. God is looking for His children to be successful in life. We are a light. Let your light so shine before men, they may see your good works. Your good living, your successful results, and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Why? Because I've learned heaven's principles. That's something else pillars are, columns are. If you want to turn it the other way, they're columns coming down from the roof. Wisdom is the columns that come down from heaven. Jesus said, you're from beneath, I'm from above, I am come down. He was the pillars of wisdom Himself. He was wisdom personified. He was the house of wisdom. And those pillars were reaching toward our life. And the kingdom of heaven is within your reach. If you reach and take hold of those pillars and begin to walk in them, and number 1, say with me, number 1 is what? Keep an humble heart. Always be teachable. And I have to say this mostly concerning God. Because there's everybody in the world has got a piece of advice for you. I visited with another guy yesterday. He just come to talk to me, and he got to tell me about how he told his pastor a better way to say that. And I thought, my God, man, how would you like for every customer that comes in your way to start telling you how you could have said something better? Please don't do that. Just shut up. Unless it's a gross violation, just try to be a better you. Hello. I couldn't believe the man said that. I thought, how would you like it if every customer, he's a better man, every customer come through your door, critique just a little bit. You know, really, if you'd put that pencil over there, it would look nicer. Well, good Lord, maybe don't want the pencil over there. Are y'all out there? 7 pillars. Number 1 is stay humble. And I don't mean to be arrogant when I say that. But especially, it's talking about be humble before the Lord. Realize what you don't know and be humble toward the Word of God. Be humble toward the things of wisdom. Because what happens in life, and this is just true, and God said in Deuteronomy 8 and 11, throughout the Old Testament, we're trying to get their own wisdom. He said, when you come into the land that I'm going to give you, and you built these goodly houses, you got all this gold and all this silver, he said, don't start thinking you've done it. He said, don't start thinking I've got it made now, I've arrived, I'm there. Hey, baby, you won't never arrive while you're in this life. We won't ever know all we should know and can know and must know. And our lives are not to get to a comfortable place and level out. We are to go toward heaven as long as there's life in us. If I'm 90 years old, I got some place to go. It may be how to straighten my depends out a little better, but I got some place to go. Some of you must not know what depends are. I'll tell you, it takes some wisdom to be old and happy. You young people don't know, but you will know. Say with me, humble, poor in spirit. Number 2, blessed, happy are they that mourn. Say with me, mourn. For they shall be comforted. That mourning there means hates evil, sighs and cries for the abominations in the land. Learn to hate evil. What's evil? Anything that's not wisdom. I'm giving you 7 pillars. If you build on them, I'll tell you, you better stay away from evil. Evil be foolishness, stupidity. Not evil maybe, we think of, well, murder or, whipping somebody with a chain. Well, those things are evil, but they're happening because there's no wisdom. They're silly, they're fools. Learn to hate foolishness. Foolish decisions. I don't like them. Well, you're too tight pattern. You better be a little tight pattern. If you're flying a plane, you better have a little bit of a tight pattern. If you're going to the battlefield, somebody shooting at your head, you better have live fire coming. You better have a little bit of a tight pattern. If a tornado's coming at your house, you'll get a tight pattern. You'll be squeezed up somewhere in a bathtub with a mattress on top of your head. Well, in life, you better get a little bit of a tight pattern about you. The hand of the diligence will be a rule, be sharp like a sword. Now, you better be circumspect about life and paying attention, because if you're not paying attention, life will slap you upside the head. How are we doing? Mournful. Say it with me, mournful. Number 1, humble. Number 2, mournful or hate evil. Say it with me, hate evil. Now, I don't have time tonight. We'll get there, but the Bible said these 7 things does God hate. 6 things are abomination. Yea, 7 things God hates. What's that? They are the opposite of the 7 pillars of wisdom. God hates foolishness. He hates sloppy living. How are we doing? Did you ever look at the Milky Way? Have you seen the order? August 27th. Great day. It's the day before my birthday. But that's not why I said that. Going to be 2 moons. Have you seen that? They already know. Yeah, there's going to be 2 moons. Mars is going to look almost as big as our moon. You're going to go out and see a double-barrel moon that night. I'm going to do it. 12:30, I believe somebody wrote me. I'm going to do it. How do they know? Order. Then they know in 2287 what will happen again. How come? Because the God of order set it in order, and it better show up. Say it with me, God loves order. I'm not preaching on that, but you need to understand that. God loves order. I keep saying this, and people don't hear me. Order brings salvation. If you have financial problems, And it won't happen overnight. I got people here that have financial struggles. Don't ever let me offend you. It ain't going to change overnight. It didn't get there overnight. But instead of getting a miracle, start obeying the laws that are, and don't wait for Jonah and a whale. Start doing the 7 pillars of wisdom. And you say, how can it work? Well, man, we're going to find things in here, and we're going to look at it several different ways, but it's just like a pillar. And one at a time. You know, just being humble is a pillar. Say with me, a pillar. All you got to start with is just start saying, you know what, God, I really ain't very bright. I don't mean that's a bad confession, but compared to Him, we ain't very bright, or we're not a very big light. So what do? We get the commandment. The commandment is a lamp. Remember my little flashlight? Wish I had it back. I should carry it all the time. Got one of them little LED flashlights. You turn it on, you look at one of them. One's a lamp, and all together make a light. The commands are a lamp, and all together the Word is a light. The law is a light. You just start learning one thing a day. Every day make you a sheet that tells something you learn until you get better, 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 and the light gets brighter, 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 and you'll wake up in a good, successful way in your days. Number 1, stay humble. Number 2, hate evil. Number 3, blessed are the meek. Say it with me, meek. And again, did I get? Yeah, it means mild disposition, subtle, wise as serpents, harmless as doves. It could mean prudence. To me, again, it's a little different, but it always means teachable. It's kind of like humility, but not the same thing as humility. It wouldn't be mixed, but it's telling you how to live your life. You need to be, I've got to find it up here. You need to be, say it with me, I'm going to be a meek person in life. Again, that means stay teachable. Stay humble. Stay, that's what other words. We've always had a little trouble with these words. Subtle, wise. Say it with me, wise. It means different things. Prudence could be another word. We're going to see, and Debbie and I talked about this. We've already seen in Proverbs, I think, since we've been in it, but we'll see it again several times. We're just now beginning to get into some real good things. Because Solomon just keeps talking over and over again about the importance of wisdom. Why? Because wisdom is the principal thing. That's why he talks about it over and over again. But for example, it says, prudent discretion will preserve thee. Now, here's what Christians do. Oh, God, preserve me. No. What does the word say? Prudence will preserve you. So don't pray for the miracle. Pray for the wisdom to use prudence. Look around your lives. If you run the motel business, if you just pray every day that God will bless you and don't use prudence, you pray every day God will bless you, and you go to the front desk looking like yesterday's bread and cussing the people and kicking the cat and screaming at your wife and being drunk. You're going to drive off more business than God can bring you. Because you're not using wisdom. You're not using good judgment. You're not using the things that God ordained that are part of, and all these things are part of the 7 pillars. It's like the commandments. The commandments were 10 and then there were 2. But if you looked inside the 10, there's a whole lot of ways. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife or whatever you weren't supposed to covet. There's lots of ways. There's lots of things that go into that. It's not just that one statement. There's lots of little subtitles hangs underneath that. And so you get all these commandments. Jesus squeezed them down into 2 to make it simple and said on this hangs all the law and the prophet. So when you're starting to be humble, there will be a lot of things you will learn about humility. But you've at least accepted the fact that you're going to stay poor in spirit or humble in spirit, and you're going to be mournful. I'm going to hate what's foolish. I'm going to hate in my life my stupid mistakes. I hate them. I don't hate me. I hate my stupid actions. Are y'all out there? Number 3, meek or mild. Number 4, seekers of righteousness. And these kind of are like the commandments. They kind of say the same thing. But it says in Jesus' teaching, verse 6, blessed are they that do hunger and thirst after righteousness. Say it with me, righteousness. Now, we're not talking about the gift of righteousness, though that's certainly true. But we're talking about right living. They hunger and thirst after right ways. Say it with me, I hunger and thirst after right ways. Obeying the law because it's good. In other words, what law? The law of living. How to love my wife, for example. I love right living. I hate poor living. I love treating my wife well. Now, my flesh don't always love that. My flesh wants to respond in ways that are not wise. But when I fall in love with wisdom and the 7 pillars and God and protection of God, then I start loving the things that are right just because they're right. And number one, I love the things that are right because they are pleasing to God. I do always those things that please the Father. A voice out of heaven said, "This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." You see, you can please God or you can displease God. Pleasing God brings favor. Displeasing is an abomination, and we got lots of scripture on that. It's disgusting. There's things that's disgusting to God. They're disgusting to wisdom, and they won't work for you. And me and you ain't smart enough to make those ways work for us. Are you hearing me? This is going to be what I'm going to say next. It's going to be really important. Are you listening to me? We're not smart enough to make those ways work for us, because I'm telling you, one thing I learned after studying God all these years, I've said to my wife over and over, it sounds so ridiculous to say it, but you know what God is? God is what is. Say to me, what is? What is. And you can't violate what is and win. That old saying, you can't fight City Hall, little truth in that. You can't fight what is at all. Oh, you can fight it, but you're going to lose. And you're going to wind up in life a loser. And you ain't going to have no light to shine forth to the hurting world. In fact, I didn't take time here. Again, Jesus' first message was what? His first word. His first message was what? The Beatitudes. Why? Well, back in chapter 4, where we looked a while ago at verse 17, look at verse 16. Verse 15. Verse 15, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, the people which sat in saw great. What did Jesus come to do? He come to enlighten us. What? To the 7 pillars of wisdom. For part of it, He come to give us the wisdom of heaven so we can apply that, not look for a miracle, but build our lives on the wisdom of God. So when the storms come, the house on the rock stands fast. The pillars hold the roof up. What are the pillars? Humility, hating evil, mild disposition, seeking righteousness. Say it with me, seeking righteousness. Number 4, seekers of righteousness. Again, blessed they do hunger and thirst after righteousness or right ways. If you're hungry for salvation, by the term I mean salvation, and I want to get us to that, because I don't think of salvation as just my new birth. I don't think of my salvation as just after I die and go to heaven. I think of my salvation as a constant working process in my life, that I'm being delivered and made well. How am I being delivered and made well? As I find the wisdom of God or the wisdom of Jesus Christ, I start building my life on that, and my life just keeps coming up throughout my life. I have a long-term plan. Number 5, merciful. Verse 7, blessed are the merciful. Say it with me, please, merciful. That means compassionate, sympathetic, empathetic. It just really means you care about other people. You got a right to divide that word, because, see, I have people come to my office, and I'm not knocking them. Had a guy yesterday come and sit in my office. I don't know how long I wanted to borrow $10 till his government check got here. I didn't have 10, so I loaned him 20, believing that'd probably be the last time I have to see him, because he probably won't pay me back. He said, I'll pay you back whatever day. And I thought, well, I'll give you 20, and you don't pay me back, maybe you won't have the nerve to come back, but he will. I don't mean that hard. You've got to be compassionate, but how many 20s can I give away and still use the wisdom of God? But I want to be compassionate, because I know compassion is a pillar in life. I'm always so proud of some of you, many of you, when I see you're able to give to every worthwhile cause, and you're a compassionate person and you really care. And I would, as your pastor, get us to where we care more. Went and visited a lady today, didn't really attend here, but her family attends her, and she's in probably her last hours. And it would be great if we'd all be compassionate about that. Be a great church when one member is injured and they all hurt together. Be a great church when one weeps and the Bible said, weep with them that weep and mourn with them that mourn. Did you know that's just part of wisdom? Be touched with the feelings of one another's infirmities. Be ready to help each other. It's just wisdom. Listen, when you boil this all down, it comes down to the commandment of love, and love always promotes somebody besides itself. And the secret to life is promoting everybody around you. If you learn to promote everything around you, all of a sudden you'll find something will start promoting you. You believe that, Pastor? I do. It's just a real, are y'all out there? Just a real positive way to live. It's just so good for the soul to start thinking, what can I do for you? But that's easier said. It's a lot harder to do. If I knew how to help those people that come to my office, believe me, I'd help them. I want to help them. I told the man today, I said, don't ever think the church is hard. We just, if you gave money to everybody come in that door, you wouldn't have any money before long, and they'd still be without. Because money is really not the problem. It's wisdom that's the problem. But they've not been taught that. Are y'all out there? They've not been taught that. And to tell you the truth, they didn't even find that when they came to church. They never see it. They don't really think when they drive by out there, them people are in there hunting wisdom. Honey, them folks are in there getting wisdom. If they thought that, they might come and join you. They think you're in here getting judgmental about homosexuality, or you're in here getting critical about everybody else, or you're in here getting, I don't know what they think. I'm sure it ain't real positive. But why? Because we didn't let our light shine. Let your light, your enlightenment, so shine before men they may see your good works. God intended for you to have a successful result in your life, a favorable result in your life. For every age bracket, there's success. There's one kind of success for 20-year-olds. There's another kind of success for a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old. There's another kind of success for a 64-year-old or a 75-year-old or an 85-year-old. Who did I talk to today? He was 75 years old. Where all have I been today? He said, 75. Thought, man, you don't look 75. Talked to another guy. I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 55. Dear Lord, he's 51. He looks a lot older than me. I'm feeling good. Good living is good. Humble, mournful, meek, seekers of righteousness, merciful. That's compassionate. Say it with me. I'm a merciful person. Blessed are the pure in heart. That means the motivations of your heart. Number 5, pure in heart. Is it number 5? Or is that merciful? Pure. Number 6 is pure. Number 6 is pure. Say it with me. Pure in heart. Here's what the New Testament said to Christians. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your heart. Your motives. Get more God conscious. God, what would you have me do? I want to be pure. I don't want it to all be about me. When it's all about you, that's really that's a sign of fear. You're afraid that it ain't going to work. I promise you the 7 pillars will work for you. But you develop and you grow and you get better and you have new opportunities in different ways to do them. Number 6, pure in heart. Number 7, the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. Verse 9, blessed are the peacemakers. I wrote in my Bible a long time ago, makers of peace. Makers up of strife. Another gentleman I read after said the Mortimer Adler definition of peacemaker. I don't know who he is, but I like his definition. One who creates an atmosphere where discussion can continue. How can I use that, Pastor? Well, in your home would be a good place to start. Just keep it on a good enough level that the discussion can continue. In those business relationships, keep the discussion on such a level that it can continue. One who creates an atmosphere where discussion can continue. How many times you've been talking on the phone to somebody you thought wasn't doing you just right, and you just maybe grabbed the receiver and just slammed it down? How many of y'all have ever done that? Anybody here ever done that? I've done that. I have to confess I've done that. Had a guy call me, I was thinking about the other day, called me years ago, and he was trying to sell me something. He was going to sell me a box of pens and give me a new car or something. I mean, it couldn't be right. Any thinking man knew it couldn't be right. So I just, laughing, having a good time. When he called back 3 or 4 days in a row, and I said, well, I'd made up my mind. I just messed with him. He's messed with me. Finally, he called me one day, and I got to laughing on the phone because it was such fun. I mean, we're just wasting his time and mine. And finally, he said, Reverend, how do you like the game of basketball? And I said, I like it pretty good. And he said, well, here's your dunk shot. Slam! But the peacemaker is the man and the woman wise enough to know you got to keep communicating. I mean, whether it's the black and the white, whether it's the Democrats and Republicans, whether it's the Gentiles in the church, the guy smart that at least talks long enough to keep the lines of communication open. And the guy, the businessman that knows how to do that and will do that, he'll just have business when other people won't have any. Now, I don't think I'm an extraordinary businessman. I'm not saying that, but I'm telling you what the Word says. The guy that can do that is the guy, don't let me offend you. The guy that can do that is going to be divorced less times than the guy who can't do that. I'm thinking of one family that they got to where they just fought about everything. They clawed each other up and scratched each other up. I mean, Brother Hagin said it'd been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. But they just ended communications. You go to their house, you could feel the cold. See, that wasn't wisdom on either one of them's part. Well, God saved my marriage. Well, maybe He'd like to have you not go to bed with mad. Don't let the sun set on your wrath. Just don't do it. Well, He'll give in first. Maybe not. I'm going to lay here my back to Him and give Him the treatment till He comes to me. He may go somewhere else. It might be better to roll over and give Him a big wet kiss right on the face. Seven pillars. Say with me, 7 pillars. Humility, mournfulness, meekness, seekers of righteousness, merciful, pure, peacemakers. 7. Say it with me, 7. You'll be reviled, the Word says, and persecuted, spoken evil of falsely for His name's sake, because you have character of the Beatitudes. A blessing merely means good speaking. Some will speak good about you. A lot speak good. When I see these qualities in people, I want to hang around that person. And I'll tell you, lots of reasons I want to learn their wisdom. I just love it when a wise man will let me hang around him. I just thank somebody recently. I said, thanks for just letting me hang around you. But then I also know they're going to go up. They're going to become more influential. I'm going to network with those people. How are you doing? Can you say amen? God will be pleased with you. Whether man is pleased with you or not, and I'd rather please God as please man anyway. Then 8 and 9 is in here. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you. See, that's passive. Isn't it? Verse 11. Well, verse 10 is, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you and say all manner against you falsely. Those are just passive. You're not really doing anything. He's just telling you what you're going to be. And then verse 12, rejoice and be exceedingly glad. In other words, when you start living well enough that people start getting jealous of you, then you can rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in the realm of elevated life. Your life is getting better. Say it with me, better. And if we had time, just going back real quickly, I've got to quit. Proverbs 6:16 through 19 tells you about 6 things that the Lord hate. Yea, 7 things are an abomination. Go out there as we go. But look at Proverbs chapter 6 real quickly, verse 16 with me, because we need to see that like there's 7 pillars to wisdom that builds a protective house, there's 7 abominations that destroy a house. And we need to learn not to do things that are an abomination or that irk God. If you're there, say I'm there. A proud look. See, that's the opposite of humility, right? Say with me, a proud look. And again, see, the church I was raised in, you really couldn't look like anything because that was a proud look. I'm not talking about that. You ought to have some self-pride. You ought to look nice. It means a proud look when it comes to looking at God. I don't need that. I'm smarter than that, and I'm smarter than the church, and I'm smarter than the Christians. And one reason the church is as dwindling as it is nationwide, worldwide, is because really they outdo us in so many ways. And if the Word says to us, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We ought to be so successful that they turn that whole mental process around. And long term we are. Proud looking, lying tongue. Say it with me, lying tongue. Please again, lying tongue. You know God hates liars. Well, let me say it the way He said it. He hates a lying tongue. Why? Because it brings disorder and confusion and so many things that aren't held. Hands that shed innocent blood, don't do it. A heart that devises a wicked imagination, feet that be swift to running into mischief, false witnesses, speaks lies. And we should always remember this one. I want you to really see that one. And he that sows what? Discord among the what? Don't be a discord sower in life. On the job, don't do it. Well, they deserve it. Shut up. You're going to come under the curse if you sow discord among the brethren. You're going to diminish God's blessing. How'd we do? I wanted to get further. 7 pillars. Say it with me, 7 pillars. And what do the 7 pillars hold up? The roof. Say it with me, the roof. And what does the roof do? It protects you. It's when the rains and the storms of life come. You're built on a rock. You've got 7 pillars. Amen. All through the Bible we see Psalms 91. He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He's my refuge. Why? Because I just woke up one morning and He was just there. No. He wanted to give me the wisdom of God. He taught me the ways of God. I didn't ask Him for a miracle, and I don't want to be mean miracles. Times you need a miracle. Thank God God's a God of miracles. Thank God for the miracles God does. Thank God that God is a miracle working God. But He never planned on us to live from miracle to miracle. He planned on us hearing the Word, receiving the wisdom of the Word, applying our heart to understanding and laying our foundation right and living our lives right so the blessings of God can come on us and overtake us. Let's stand together. Father, we thank You for life and good.